Good morning. Good morning. You are listening to KSFS Radio San Francisco. KSFS is proudly brought to you by the Department of Broadcast and Electronic Communication Arts at San Francisco State University, some rights reserved under the Creative Commons license. But good morning, everyone. How are we all doing today? I realize no one can talk back to me, except you can if you are using the KSFS app. You can use the chat. I can see what you're talking about. That would be great, but I guess I should introduce myself. Hello, everyone, and welcome. You are listening to Grief Support Group. I am your host for the next hour. My name is Alex Piscatelli, and I'm so excited to be here. This is my KSFS debut, and I feel like I have a lot to say. I took a lot of notes. I'm very excited to be here. But first I wanted to introduce myself and introduce what Grief Support Group is all about. So like I said, my name is Alex Piscatelli. I am a graduate student here at San Francisco State in the Department of Broadcast and Electronic Communication Arts. This semester, I have been one of the instructors of one of the KSFS classes, the intro one. So all my students have been creating these wonderful shows, and I've been listening to them over the past couple of weeks. And I kind of got jealous. I was like, wait, I need to do a show too. I'm ready to jump in. So I'll say some of my background, and then I'll say what this show is going to be about, because I'm so excited to be here. It's a beautiful San Francisco morning. The sun is out, and I don't know if anyone saw the moon last night. Yeah, I was telling my husband, I'm like, the moon should be like that all the time. Like, it was so outrageously bright. And I'm like, if I created this universe, I would have the moon be, I don't know, whatever. It seems like it'd be fun, right? Okay, so I wanted to give a little intro of my background and kind of why I'm doing Grief Support Group. So I did college radio in undergrad at San Diego State University. Shout out to KCR College Radio. And I was part of the radio almost all 4 years of college. You know how it goes when there's drama with... Or maybe this is just a me issue. But I had drama with one of the managers at KCR College Radio. Shout out to them. But so I didn't do it all 4 years. But when I was in college radio, I was talking about pop culture and talking about, celebrity culture and playing my favorite pop songs with my co-host Jawan. Shout out to him as well. And so when I graduated undergrad, I was like, okay, I really miss talking in front of a mic and having a show and creating something that I care about so much. And so I ended up starting a dating podcast called Dating or At Least Trying. And I did that from 2018 through 2023. So a very long time. And my second episode ever was, and the first one I ever recorded was, I recorded with someone who had ghosted me. We had gone on like 2 dates and then he ghosted me. And I was like, starting this podcast, and I was like, let me reach out to him. And I sent him like a, the doodle poll where you try to figure out someone's availability. Surprisingly, it worked out, and I got him on the podcast, and then we never spoke again. And I think he's married now. Actually, we're Facebook friends, which whatever. Anyway, so shout out to him as well. I don't know why I'm doing all these shout outs this morning, but so Dating or At Least Trying was kind of about that, right? It was about having these like open, vulnerable conversations about dating and sex and relationships on a podcast. And I ended up interviewing my husband after our first date. And I always think about the saying, like, when you know, you know. And I feel like for me, it was like, when you know, after the, I don't know, something there where after the podcast together, right? And so I think even just the thought of him wanting to do the podcast after our first date was really like, oh, I loved that. You know what I mean? So I had this dating podcast, and I ended up stopping it in 2023. I don't know. I still dabble with wanting to come back to it because I do love exploring and talking about dating and relationships. But since then, since 2024, I have this website now called Grief and Media. And it's a podcast and a newsletter and a media database that explores that intersection between grief and media and pop culture. And why that's important to me is because I have personal experiences with grief, which I'm actually going to get into when I answer an advice question, which more to come on that. But I think for me, it was really important to explore this intersection because I don't think a lot of people are talking about it, but it's becoming more relevant in our media, right? We're talking about grief more. We're talking about mental health more. And so this actually is what led me to my research interests in grad school, which I will be getting to. But I feel like this culmination of grief and pop culture and relationships and all these things I'm interested in led to grief support group. All of this led to this, right? So what is grief support group? This show, and this is the debut of it, and I think I want to do a regular slot because I'm already like so happy 5 minutes in. But what grief support group will be is I'll be answering advice. I'll be talking about pop culture, grief, media, and then I'll be playing some of my favorite songs at the moment. So this will be a talk show, but also a radio show. Of course, we have songs. I am a certified Ariana Grande fan. I wouldn't call myself an Arianator. I think that's what they call themselves, because there's this, there's the Swifties, there's the Barbs, I wouldn't classify myself as a full stan, but I'm like a casual stan. You know what I mean? Like, I'm someone who brings up Ariana in everyday conversation very often, but I haven't gone so far as to have like a stan account on Twitter, for example. Do I see that content? Yes, I do, but I'm not the one posting it or, creating that content. I'm just consuming it and fully immersed in it in that way. But that being said, the type of music that you'll hear on this show, you'll hear a lot of pop, of course. You'll hear a lot of pop with R&B influence. You'll hear a lot of R&B with pop. You'll hear oldies. I love my oldies. And you'll hear some disco influence. And that's why my favorite album of the year. Okay, I have two favorite albums of the year. You're going to hear a song from each of them, I believe. Yes, you will hear a song from each of them. My first favorite album, because I love that disco influence, is Sabrina Carpenter's album, Man's Best Friend. So you will be hearing that this episode today. But also my second favorite album, and here's the thing. I just talked about seeing Ariana Stan stuff on Twitter. I also, for whatever reason, I don't know if y'all know the band Little Mix. They come from the UK and they're a girl group. I feel like I had first heard of them because one of their group members, Perry, dated Zayn from One Direction. So like they came up around, they might have been after One Direction, but like around that time, right? And they have since done solo careers, and Jade just put out an album, Jade from Little Mix, called That's Showbiz Babe or Baby. And we're going to start with Jade. And we're going to start with Jade Plastic Box. So I'm so excited. After we play some music, we're going to get into research conversations and talking pop culture, talking The Summer I Turned Pretty, because I don't know if y'all are watching. I bring it up in every conversation. Then we're going to get into some of our advice questions. As I said, advice is going to be a huge thing on Grief Support Group. I have two questions coming up. One about when to end a friendship, and the other about grieving a loved one. So we'll get into those. But first, let's start with Plastic Box by Jade. Welcome back. You just heard Tyrant by Beyonce. And here's the thing. I feel like, I don't like country music. I'll preface that. But I do love country music when the pop girls do it, when Beyonce's doing it, when Sabrina Carpenter has that country twang. When you listen to Eternal Sunshine by Ariana Grande and you hear Imperfect for You and it almost sounds folksy, yeah, that's the country I like. So I do love country music, but only in specific circumstances. Okay, well, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that little music break. But now we are going to talk a little bit about my research and why it's relevant to Grief Support Group, right? It all comes full circle. It all comes back to itself. So my research that I'm interested in as a grad student and that I hope to continue to pursue once I graduate here, hopefully manifesting maybe getting in a PhD program, I hope. I don't know. Okay, we'll see. But I'm really interested in grief and representation in media and pop culture. And I preface this to say that I think the way that grief has been represented in media has continuously evolved. I talked about this a little in my introduction, But we're at a point now where people are talking about grief a lot more in media. And I think that's for a few reasons, right? In the 2010s, we saw more conversations about mental health, like whether it's anxiety or depression. And then, of course, in 2020, with the COVID pandemic and grief and death, since then being so prominent in our everyday news, I think people are seeking more than ever media that is addressing like what they're feeling. And for a lot of people, and we're at the age now, I always love to say my age because I'm 29. I think it's a really great age. And there's only 7 more months that I can say I'm in my 20s. So I'm 29. I'll probably repeat that a few times. But we're at an age now where like people are losing loved ones and they're wanting to consume media that's discussing what it means and try to understand what it means to have these losses. And why I'm interested in pop culture specifically, I'm a pop culture girl. Y'all know it. I have always loved pop culture. I was someone who, growing up, like, I would read People magazine. I would read 17 magazine. I would read all these things. And I feel like it's what's so special about pop culture is I think it gives like an avenue for people to connect. Like I think about in my class yesterday, like beginning the class, people were like, what did you think about Life of a Showgirl, the new Taylor Swift album? And I was like, wait, I was going to ask you guys that. Like that, it's such a cool way to connect with people and to hear like their thoughts and analyze it. And I think that's why it's so important. And I think when you think about grief in media, or at least this is the example I always use, you think of like, did anyone watch My Sister's Keeper or Charlie St. Cloud? I think of these movies from the 2000s that were very, very like grief heavy and death heavy, and they're dramas, right? Even though I love Zac Efron and I loved him, I could not watch Charlie St. Cloud. I avoid media like that where it's so heavy on it. But for me, like, for example, The Summer I Turned Pretty is a show that like you aren't necessarily watching for the grief, but how are you understanding grief and your own grief as a result of watching it? So that's why I'm interested in these topics. But I wanted to share a little bit about, because this is a process, okay? I am halfway, 5/8 done with grad school, something like that. My math might be wrong. But I am at the stage where I'm working on my thesis, and I'm doing my thesis proposal, and I'm working on the literature review for it all. And my topic that I'm interested in is looking at how fandoms of coming of age shows that talk about grief and portray grief, how these fandoms are understanding grief and how they're interpreting grief as a result of both the show and being part of the fandom, right? So a huge example of this is The Summer I Turned Pretty. And if you know me, you know I talk about it all the time. And this is another one of those moments where here's why I love pop culture. I get to talk about The Summer I Turned Pretty with people. It was coming on once a week since, July, and then it just ended a few weeks ago. Every week people were like, what are your thoughts on The Summer I Turned Pretty? And then I was going on Twitter and I was seeing people talk about The Summer I Turned Pretty. And I feel like it's a really nice distraction from all like everything going on. And you're able to connect with people in this very pure way. Anyway, let me talk about The Summer I Turned Pretty, because that show is wild. So if you aren't familiar, The Summer I Turned Pretty just ended its series. However, a movie is coming, so there's still time to catch up and be part of the fandom. But the show centers around 2 families. So the main character is named Belly. I don't know, short for Isabel. I think Isabel or Isabella, I believe. And her mom and brother spend every summer at a summer house with the Fisher family, and it's 2 boys and their mom. And the 2 moms are best friends, like met in college, have been best friends ever since. So they spend the summers together. And Belly has a love triangle, as all our favorite teen dramas do, with the 2 brothers. I know. But that's what we're going to watch, okay? I listen, I was Team Jacob back in the Twilight days. If you watch Never Have I Ever, another great grief show, I'm Team Paxton. And in this circumstance, for The Summer I Turned Pretty, I am Team Conrad. There's no other answer. I saw Jennifer Lawrence say she was Team Jeremiah, and it's like, okay, like, why publicly, whatever. So this show, what's so special about it is, again, you're listening, or you're watching these, like, this love triangle happen, and you're choosing sides, and you're having fun, and you're engaging with this media. But then also in this show, in the first season, the mother of the boys, Susanna, is diagnosed with cancer. And you see that process of people finding out. One brother, Conrad, like, knows about it, whereas the other brother doesn't. And it's like the family dynamics there, and the dynamics of both families, like, figuring that out together. Then the second season starts, and it's a voiceover from Belly, and she's saying Susanna's dead. So you find out she died between the first season and the second season. And so the whole show is sort of this exploration of grief and how it impacts these young kids, because they're in high school when she dies, and then there's time jumps, so they end up being in their, like, early to mid 20s, and you see how grief continues to be a part of their lives throughout the series. So as you can imagine, not the grief, let's put the grief aside for a second, but as you can imagine, this show was hugely popular. I mean, it was everywhere. If you were avoiding it, I don't know how you possibly were, because I was seeing it everywhere. Like, Howard Stern was talking about it, like, I mean, everywhere. I feel like Uber Eats or one of those, like, delivery apps did, like, a thing, like a Team Conrad, Team Jeremiah for the finale. I don't know. People were sending me it. It's a whole thing. But anyway, you are so engrossed in this, like, who will she pick? Like, romance, like, first love, like, coming of age show, and you're learning about grief along the way. And so I'm really excited to explore that in my research. But The Summer I Turned Pretty, literally the finale, I think in the first 24 hours had something like 25 million viewers, and I was certainly one of them, and I certainly rewatched it. The thing is, every week when a new episode would come out, I would watch it the second it came out, like, hands on my chin, watching it at the edge of my seat. And then I would rewatch it with my husband. Well, he was sat too. Like, we would usually watch it together. But then I'd rewatch it, like, with my cat. I would rewatch it, like, paying attention again. I would rewatch it playing my Sudoku. There were so many things. And so I'm really excited to explore this in my thesis. But you will, on Grief Support Group, be hearing about this even more, because this is certainly going to be a process working on the thesis, I will say. It's very a lot. So I need this Grief Support Group, and I hope you all need this too. Okay. So the next segments are going to be answering our advice questions. We have two very, very great questions that I'm so excited to address. One is about friendships and deciding when to call it quits, and another is about handling the loss of a loved one. Before we get into those, we're going to listen to some more music. We're going to start first with some Tyler, the Creator. Here we go. Okay, welcome back to Grief Support Group. I had to play some Megan Thee Stallion. She is a fellow person who has lost both parents. Love that song in particular. I think it's the perfect fall song. Okay, so we are getting into our very first advice question of Grief Support Group. I'm so excited. And thank you for the people who asked questions, because these are amazing questions, and I'm so excited to answer more as the semester goes on. So I'll also plug this. If you want to ask an advice question for a future show, please feel free to submit. It's anonymous at bit.ly, that's bit.ly/KSFS advice. That's KSFS advice. Okay, here we go. Getting into the first one. So this person said, I have a lot of childhood friends from grade school. We've all done great keeping up with each other and staying friends through college and now adulthood. Lately, one of these friends has started to pull away. How do you know when it's time to stop trying to keep the friendship? Okay, I love this question. As previously mentioned, I am 29, okay? I'm in my 20s. But I don't know how old this question, whoever asked this is, but I think we're at a time in our 20s, our 30s, whatever age really, but especially I think as your 20s go on, you're dealing with this maybe for the first time, right? Maybe you dealt with this with childhood friends in college and in your mid-20s, but it often feels like it's easier to be around, like, it's easier to get together with friends when you're younger, when you have less responsibilities. And I think as you start to get into, like, our lives, right? Like, we're all doing things. Like, there's childhood friends of mine have kids now. There's childhood friends who are married. I'm married. I mean, to me, I feel like I have time, but like there's people who, I don't know, are just dealing with different busyness stuff because of different parts of what they have going on in their lives, right? So you say you've done a really great job of keeping up with each other, but this one friend has started to pull away. How do you know when it's time to stop trying to keep the friendship? Okay, so I think there's two schools of thought. I think you have to ask yourself what you want from this friendship, right? I think, okay, I love to say this, and I don't know if people agree, but I think we all have it, right? Like, you kind of have like your tiers of friendships. Like, top tier is like your closest friends, right? Like, these are your closest people. Like, maybe you don't talk every day. I'm not someone who talks to my closest friends every single day, but like, you're in touch, you know what's going on. Like, if they like needed something, you would drop everything for them. Like, they're your top tier friends. Like, you know you will be friends with them. I mean, unless something happens and you have to end the friendship, but like, you know you'll be friends with them. The next tier is like your friends. Like, you love them. Like, you love them. They're great. Maybe some you talk to more than even your top tier friends, but like, these are all friends. Like, they're great. Then I feel like there's a tier after that, right? And it's like friends that like you consider them people that you like and they're friends, but maybe you don't always see them. And maybe it takes like a certain circumstance to see them. Like, I don't know. I feel like this is like, maybe this is me being really like, I don't know. Because I'm someone who I feel like I have a lot of friends, and I feel like there's this meme, and I've put it on my Instagram, and it's SpongeBob and that one guy from Family Guy. I don't know Family Guy. And it's like real simple, like, if you're chill, like, I'll talk to you type thing. And I feel that way. So maybe I consider like more people my friends than that consider me friends. But like, I had my high school reunion last year, because again, I'm 29, you guys. But I had my high school reunion last year, and I saw someone I have not seen since high school. A few people I haven't seen since high school. And I'm like, I'm friends with them. Like, even though I haven't seen them in forever, I consider us friends. So I think you need to think about what you want from this friend. Is them pulling away something that you feel like they're doing it in a way that like they don't care about you anymore, and like they are like being a bad friend in that way? Because then I think that's a conversation you need to have. Or is this someone that it's a friend that you don't need to see them all the time, and if they pull away, that's okay. That's just the stage of life y'all are in. And so I think you can consider that too. My advice is ask yourself what you want from this friendship. Do you want it to be someone that you're in touch like you used to be, or are you okay with the way things are going? If you're okay with the way things are going and you don't feel like there's any bad blood on their end, and you don't find any bad blood on your end, but you're fine with how it is, that's fine. Maybe send them something that you're thinking of them, but you don't have to ask to hang out or anything. If it's someone you want to see more and you feel like they're pulling away, I think it's time to have a conversation with them. It doesn't have to be confrontational. It doesn't have to be like, oh my God, you're not keeping in touch with me. What's going on? It could just be, hey, like, I'm thinking of you. I really want to see you. I feel like it's been a while. Can we get together? Can we get coffee? Can we go to dinner? Just ask them, send them a message. And don't be accusatory in any sense of the word, but just be like, hey, like, I haven't heard from you. Like, I'd love to hang out. Up to you, to your discretion. But think about the tiers of friendship, right? Everyone does that, right? It's not just me. You have your top tier, you have your mid tier, whatever. decide what you want from the friendship and go from there. I'm certain you'll make the right decision for you. Okay, so once again, if you have a question you would like to ask, and I'll address it on Grief Support Group, you can do so at bit.ly/KSFS advice. Okay, we're going to take a little music break, and then we will get into our next advice question. See y'all soon. Okay, we are back, and you are listening to Grief Support Group. That was Hampstead by Ariana Grande, the queen herself. Okay, the thing is that, you all knew what happened 2 years ago with the Ethan Slater of it all. I feel like as an Ariana fan, I just had to stay silent. I was like, you know what? It'll be fine. Public backlash, it'll be fine. I just have to stay silent. And of course, the fan who stuck by her, I didn't even get Eternal Sunshine tour tickets. So I don't know what that's about. Whatever, it's fine. I'm not upset about it. If anyone wants to sell me a ticket, no, it's fine. Okay, so we're getting into our second advice question of the show. We only have 13 minutes left of this show. I just have to say thank you all for listening and for being here and submitting advice questions. I'm like so full of joy right now. Okay, so getting into advice question number 2 on Grief Support Group. This question asked, how do you handle the loss of a loved one who you didn't get the chance to say goodbye to? Okay, first of all, thank you so much for asking this question. I don't know. I just feel kind of honored that you decided to ask this. I feel like I'm trusted with this question, and I feel really thankful for that. So how do you handle the loss of a loved one who you didn't get to say goodbye to? I think this is hard, and I think this is a part of grief that is going to be something that you think about, not to scare you, but for the rest of your life. I don't know how far along you are since the loss of this loved one, whether it's been weeks, months, years, but I think this is always going to be something that you're figuring out, because I don't think any goodbye is ever enough. And I'll speak from personal experience, not that like it's equivalent to your situation in any sense of the word, but just to provide kind of an example, I guess. So again, I'm 29, you guys. I'm in my 20s. I'm 29. But I lost my dad when I was 17, and that was a very sudden death. And then my mom died when I was 25, and it was sudden, but in a different way, right? She had cancer, stage 4. She got diagnosed, and 8 months later, she died. And my parents are both my best friends. I mean, the greatest people I've ever known and will ever know, right? And my dad, it was sudden, you know what I mean? And so there was no saying goodbye. And I was also 17, like who knew you'd have to say goodbye to a parent when you're in high school? And then with my mom, like, even though she had like this terminal illness, like we didn't know it was truly terminal till a couple weeks before she died. And so even though I had more time and more anticipatory grief, like I didn't get to say goodbye, I don't think. Like, I think I came at that death in a different lens than I did with the first. All right, I think I should rephrase this. I handled that death through the framework that I gained from handling my dad's death, which is, I didn't handle it, you know what I mean? It's just something I had to do. But because like I knew I wanted so many things, like I wish I could like hear my dad's thoughts on this. Like I didn't get to hear this story from him, or I don't even remember what he said about this. Like I really tried to ask my mom like a bunch of questions before she died. I mean, I didn't get all the questions. I couldn't even think of all the questions I could have possibly wanted to ask her. You know what I mean? But like, I remember finding out that her and my dad, like she told me this 2 weeks before she died. Her and my dad did a helicopter ride in San Diego. And when I tell you, like, they were not thrill seekers. Like, I am not a thrill seeker. Like, I was like, wait, what do you mean you did a helicopter ride? I would never do a helicopter ride. Do I want to fall in the ocean? Absolutely not. But they did. And I thought that was so funny. Like, I got that story because I had the ability to like ask these questions that I was like trying to ask her before she was no longer here. that being said, I don't feel like I got a goodbye. Like, there's so much more I wish I could ask her. There's so much more I wish I could say. And I think every new day and every new memory and every new thing that happens, like, there's going to be something I wish I could share with my parents. And so you asked this question, how do you handle the loss of someone who you didn't get a chance to say goodbye to? I don't think you can ever say goodbye. And I hope that this question isn't something that, like, you're thinking about and you have any sort of regret, because I don't think you should. Because, I mean, okay, that's easier said than done, by the way, way easier said than done. But I think instead of looking at it as a goodbye, because this person isn't gone. And I'm not talking about like afterlife or any of that. I don't know what I believe. I don't know what you believe. No one has to believe anything. Maybe people do believe in something. What I'm talking about is the love that you have for them and the relationship you had with them and the memories you've shared and their impact in your life has not gone away. It's still here. And I think a huge, like, I've always kind of innately like thought about this. But since being in grad school, I've learned like the theoretical stuff behind it. And there's this theory called the continuing bonds theory. And what it means is that like people who are grieving don't have to say goodbye, right? They can continue the bond with the person who has died. And they can do so by celebrating their birthday every year or, you know, doing something with them that they want to do. Even though they're not physically here, you can still do those things and engage in those things and watch a movie because you know they love it. It's like kind of funny because so growing up on Tuesday, like my mom was always the one to pick me up from like elementary school and stuff, except Tuesdays. Tuesdays was the day my dad picked me up because it was early pickup. So he was the one to pick me up that day. And we would like go to the mall, like go to Claire's, or like we would go to In-N-Out or KFC. That's why I love KFC. But like oftentimes we would go to the local park and go on the swings. I mean, he wouldn't always go on the swing. I actually don't remember if he was on the swing, but I was on the swing. I love the swing. I love it. Like, it's so fun. I hate the slide, monkey bars. Those are so lame. Like, it's all about the swing. And so we would do this all the time. And, on my way home from SF State, when I'm driving home, I pass by this park and it has a swing. And like, I found myself going to it randomly, like last semester. I don't even know how I found it. I feel like I just ended up there and I went on the swing and I had so much fun. And I thought of my dad and I thought of my mom. And I was just like this 29-year-old, yeah, because I'm in my 20s, 29-year-old woman on the swing. Not a cell phone in sight. I was in my pocket, but like no headphones, no person around me, just on the swing. I don't know if that's weird. I don't know what that image was, but I did it. And it made me think of my dad and my mom too, but it just like put me so in the moment. And then I ended up, my last day of the semester last year in the fall was on the day my dad died, on December 17th. And so I went to the swing and I cried a little bit. Again, a 29-year-old woman alone on the swing crying. I don't know if it was weird, but I did it. And I also did it on the day my mom died, which was January 31st. And I just find myself going to the swing and it helps me be in the moment. And it's like a really beautiful, like it overlooks the water. Like that's what I've been doing as part of my many things I do for continuing bonds. So I guess all in all, I hope this is helpful. I just have to say, I hope you don't feel like, oh, I wish I got to say goodbye. Because even if you got to say goodbye, you would never feel like it's enough. And I think the biggest thing to remember is that like your love for this person has not died. Your relationship with this person has not died. Your loved one is still in your life and they will be in your life for the rest of your life. So I hope you don't feel like you had to say goodbye, and I hope you can continue that bond and that conversation with them. Okay, I hope that was helpful at all. And thank you so much again for sharing this question. I deeply, deeply appreciate it. Okay, we are nearing the end of Grief Support Group, which is wild. An hour flew by so outrageously quickly. I don't know what that was about. Anyway, but this flew by, and if you want to ask an advice question for my next show, please do so at bit.ly/KSFS advice. That is bit.ly/KSFS advice. Okay, thank you for joining me here for Grief Support Group. I talked so long and this time flew by that I had so many more songs lined up that I didn't even get a chance to share with you all, but that's okay because I'll be back. So we're gonna get in some music, and we're gonna do maybe one more song before I'm out of here. But again, thank you so much for listening. If you want to follow my work, you can do so at griefandmedia.com. Follow me on Instagram at Alex Piscatelli or at Grief and Media. Okay, thank you all. I will see you next time. And Sabrina, why don't you close us out here, okay? Getting into Sabrina, my favorite song from the album. Here we go. Thanks, y'all.